some votes. I think New Zealand is now, given all of the progress we've made in recent decades, can see that for what it is.
Do you believe the ex-party is using Māori as a punching bag during this election?
Yes, I think that's what I just indicated.
You opened your press conference by saying it's now been 18 days since the National Party haven't released their costings. Yesterday it was 17, the day before it was 16, tomorrow's going to be 19. Is this how you're going to open every single press conference between now and the election?
May well be. There's 15 days to go until people get to vote. I think it's important that New Zealanders understand what they're voting for. We're being very transparent about what we're putting before the electorate. Every policy announcement that we make, we release the costings, we release the assumptions behind that, and people can form judgments on whether they think our numbers are robust or not. The fact that the National Party have launched a policy that is billions and billions and billions of dollars and cannot say how they're going to pay for it or what they're going to cut to pay for it, I think speaks volumes about how seriously they're taking it. Ultimately, I think they're treating the New Zealand public with contempt.
Yeah, and just on transparency, the National Party's put out a press release saying that they've got a leak that says that then Justice Minister Kitty Allen lodged a paper for Cabinet on July 17th this year, which included a proposal to not engage or renew any contracts with gangs or persons actively associated with gangs, but the Cabinet did not agree. Did this happen?
That's correct, and in fact I answered questions on it at the time. We did look at whether there were ways to limit government funding to gangs and what programs would be affected and what government services could be affected if we put such a ban, such an arbitrary ban in place. In fact, some of the programs launched under the key English government that have been targeted at women and children in gangs, for example, would stop if we did that. There would be some government services that would have difficulty accessing the services that they need if we were to do that. For example, if we were to say to the police and others that in order to access a tow truck company, you could not work with any company that had a shareholding or a directorship from someone who's in a gang, we'd actually make it very difficult for the police to do their jobs. So we did look at it, and ultimately what we found was that it was going to do more harm than good. Some of the programs that would be at risk, for example, and again, many of these programs set up under the key English government that are actually having a positive impact would stop. And so we decided not to do that.
But you couldn't think of any carve-outs or any ways around it? I mean, the issue about government working with gangs really took you for a knock when it first came out with the $2.75 million contract to Harry Tam.
Yeah, as I've indicated, many of the programs that are in question were actually set up under the key English government. And they are programs that are making a positive difference. They're targeting women and children in gangs. They're targeting violent activity in gangs, trying to rehabilitate people so that they're not engaged in violent activity. I'm more interested in the substance than the politics here. These programs are making a difference. I'm not interested in a clickbait headline. I'm interested in actually making a difference to people's lives.
But with all those things in mind, I mean, you make fair points. So why did this even come to Cabinet in the first place? Why was there a Cabinet paper if you felt so strongly about it?
Because we wanted to see whether it was feasible and we wanted to see what the consequences of that are. When we saw the consequences of that, it simply didn't stack up.
Will you release that Cabinet paper so people can make their own conclusions?
It certainly will be released under the proactive release. We release all of our Cabinet papers under that process.
Do you think today's Women's Manifesto goes far enough? A lot of this is just re-announcing years-old policies that were not delivered.
It's updating on progress and setting out the next steps. That's what election campaigns are about.
The ex-party also wants to get rid of demographic ministries. What would the consequence be of getting rid of the ministry for women?
Well, I might let the women answer that question rather than me doing that on their behalf. So.
That would be absolutely huge and catastrophic for women in this country. In the last few years, we've seen the ministry just grow in strength. They are sitting at all tables now. They have been instrumental in the women's health strategy. They have produced a women's employment action plan. They have been part of the Te Ao Rerekura development, bringing the gender lens to the elimination of domestic and family violence, of sexual violence. They have been absolutely punching above their weight because they are one of the smallest ministries that we have in this country, and yet they are making a huge difference for women. I am horrified to hear that any party would think about getting rid of them when we have so much to do for women in this country. We have come so far, but as we said today, there is far more to do. And I'm really, really concerned that anybody would come on a clickbait and say that they were going to get rid of it just because they think it's a populist vote.
Prime Minister, you were pushed this morning by members of the Pacific community about the issue of split migrant families, and you said you teased essentially a policy was coming soon. When can we expect an answer on that?
So I want to be clear that the Labor Party will be announcing a policy on that before the election. Further government decisions will be a matter for post-election, where Parliament is now dissolved, so it will be a Labor Party policy, and we'll be announcing that in a few weeks.
Okay, can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek as to what it might entail?
It'll involve an announcement.
And you mentioned today that it was your daughter's 5th birthday, was it?
On Tuesday.
On
Yeah.
Tuesday. I mean, how important is it for you today to stand here and make these announcements? Were you thinking of your daughter while you were doing it?
As a dad, I think about my kids during the campaign all of the time. Ultimately, I'm in politics to make New Zealand a better place for future generations, and having young kids myself certainly sheets that home to me. Having a daughter born on Women's Suffrage Day does really signify, I think, the importance of the decisions that we've announced today.
Yeah, is it hard to be away from them on the campaign trail? It's a lot of lonely nights.
Very.
I mean, sleep, like, you know what I mean.
Very.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Don't be walking away or anything.
No.
Where are all the ladies today? Oh, wow. Well, we know that this is going to be like, a headline story, given how seriously we know our male journalists take women issues. Yeah?
We're going to quick photo before everybody leaves.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to do it in front of the...
In front of this?
Yeah, in front of this.
We can
Yeah. We don't need to get all the journalists in, but it's okay that there's...
And can I possibly get you
Yes.
guys on one of them to pick up the signs and just do one?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Come on, you're
this
shorter,
way.
come on.
On the some of you on this side.
Someone can stand